Hi, I'm Jeff Johnston, host of the Living Undeterred podcast. This is a reminder that we're going on tour next summer. Yes, that's right, we're going on tour. The Living Undeterred US Tour 2022. We're leaving on May 9th next summer. We're going to every state and we're raising $1 million. That's the plan to change the narrative on mental health, substance abuse, and addiction. We need your help, though. I cannot do this alone. I know there's a lot of people out there interested in this project of ours. You can go to our website, www.livingundeterred.com. We need volunteers. We need state partnerships. We need sponsors. We need as many people as we can to get out there and help those people that need help to change the narrative on mental health, substance abuse, and addiction. Again, go to livingundeterred.com and click on the Living Undeterred icon, and all the information is there. Again, thank you very much for the support, and as always, keep living undeterred. Hello, I'm Jeff Johnston, host of the Living Undeterred podcast, and thank you for watching today's show. I first of all want to thank everybody for the absolutely awe-inspiring support that I've had on this journey. For those of you that are new to the journey, I'll tell you a little bit about where the Living Undeterred idea came from. For those of you who already heard this, then just hang on. But October 4th, 2016, our oldest son died of a heroin overdose. And that was a very disruptive moment in my life. Still am a practicing financial advisor. I had built a wealth financial firm up called Premier Investments of Iowa. At 50 years old, I had it all. I had the big house, the cars, the status. And then I buried a child, which is the hardest thing to possibly do. And then recently I buried my wife. My wife died 8 weeks ago, and I will simply say that grief took a toll on her, and we'll leave it at that. So I've had to deal with two really difficult challenges in my life. And today's guest is going to talk a lot about wellness and health and mental health and well-being. And I think what I went through as a financial advisor preceding the death in my life, I was an alcoholic. I had compulsive gambling problems. I had a lot of masks I was wearing as I was building up my financial advisory practice. So our guest today is writing a book, and I was immediately drawn in when I heard about this. She's got some family history in the business. Her book is catered towards the financial advisory industry and the wellness and the health behind the industry. Not the wealth, but the health behind it. She's got a great name of her company. It's called Grow Wellthy, Wellthy, which I think is spot on. So with that, I'm going to introduce from the lovely state just south of us, Missouri, Stevyn Guinnip. Thank you for being on the show. And I ask every guess this question. Why do you think I drug you on the Living Undeterred podcast?
Drug me here, huh? I don't know if I would call it that. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I love what you're doing. I see some parallels here between your experience, in the advisor world and wanting to help other people outside of that world even to not have to have those crisis moments. And everyone's has different experiences, but I'm kind of on the preventative side of things. So I'm assuming that that's why you drug me here, is how can we help people to prevent some of these things that kind of run rampant in this industry?
The statistics, and I did a live stream last night. I'm going to cheat here for a second, look on my sheet here, but these are statistics on mental health and addiction. And when you say mental health or addiction or substance abuse, people have these visions come into their head. But some of the statistics are jaw-dropping. 1 in 5 adults experience mental illness. 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys are sexually abused. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. So an alcohol death killed 97,000 Americans last year. So, it's not just the financial services industry, but today's topic is specifically towards what I've worked, most of my life to build and to counsel people on. And now you've got this book coming out. And what you did, I guess before I get to the book, let's talk a little bit about why this industry. I think it's admirable. You're the CEO and founder of Grow Wellthy. You cater to people like me. Your clients are advisors. But what got you interested, of all the industries you could have picked, why did you pick the financial advisory business?
Well, it took me about 20 years to come full circle back to home, as I call it. Um, if you can see over my shoulder, this is my dad's legacy award. He was an advisor, a successful advisor for 32 years. And I was 11 years old when he started that office. Two previous advisors had actually failed at an office in that same town before he came in. And so it was a good 10 years of hustle, vacations where he's on the phone calling it, like there's, I lived that life of seeing it secondhand what that kind of lifestyle can do. Once he did make it, I was able to go on some of these trips with him, like awards trips, and work in his office and those sorts of things. So I got to know his colleagues. I got to know his clients. And I realized pretty early I have several really distinct memories of like a gut punch when these people in the industry and the clients of the industry had really worked hard and achieved a lot of things financially. But when it came time for them to retire, they either got sick or died prior to being able to use it. Or one example is when I was in Scotland and we had just come from an advisor event and we were sitting on the bus. One of the managing partners in the company was sitting on the bus next to me, in the little seat next to me. I was 17. We were just chatting and he was not happy. He was in fact miserable. He was unhealthy. He did not want to be there. His relationships had fallen apart with his family. And I just remember going, oh my gosh, you have such a big bank account. I know you're doing very well financially, but everything over here is bankrupt. And I just thought there had to be another way. And, fortunately, my dad did not go down that route. He was able to bring some things into his life, and he's 75 now, and he can beat me in pickleball. He can outfish me, out paddle me, out racquetball me, and he's 75. And so he fortunately was able to do that. But I saw kind of the train wreck of all of that other happening. And unfortunately, in this industry, these people, these advisors are talking to clients every single day. And so they have like a megaphone where they can reach, 150, 250 families. And so I thought, oh my gosh, I get to serve these people that mean so much to me. They're part of my DNA. But not only that, they get to go out and be the mentors and spread that word. And my reach just goes so much further to tell people this is important too. Your health is an asset. It's part of your financial portfolio.
Yeah.
Here's how to make sure that these things are covered so you don't end up in retirement going, this didn't work out. Or even before retirement. I hear advisors all the time talk to me when I do these book interviews about, they don't want to die at the desk because that's kind of a real thing in this industry and others, honestly. So how can we prevent that? How can we give people the tools that are beyond exercise and beyond diet? The things that really make their life kind of have a rhythm to the day that taps into their physiology. Because you talked about mental issues and stress and depression and some of those. My background is in exercise physiology. That's what I did for 20 years. Honestly, they're the same thing. Mental health and physical health, there's no difference because they're both, one is just more of a dysfunction or a disease of an organ, but it's your brain. The others are of other organs like your kidneys or your gut or whatever. Yeah. But they all interact with each other. So if you've got some malnourishment going on or you've got some stress going on, it affects all the other systems. So that you can't really look at one without looking at all of them.
I remember, I came in the business at 23 and I'm 55 now, but I actually haven't seen clients in the last 3 years. I'm retired, but I haven't sold anything. I'm doing this right now. The Living Undeterred project is what I really, really like.
Yeah.
But I remember meeting with clients back when I was seeing them, and I met a lot of clients. I actually ended up calling them financial hoarders in my book, where I write about these people that, we know what hoarders are. You've seen the shows. They have the houses, and they just have stuff they can't get rid of. Well, financial hoarders are the same way with their money, and there's a disconnect. There's a poor relationship. It's all about quantity of their money, not the quality of their money. So they accumulate, they accumulate, they accumulate. They just become rich, old, miserable people. So I saw as a financial advisor a lot of clients that had money, but they weren't happy. And I'm like, I'd rather not have money and be happy. I don't want to be broke, but I'd rather not have millions of dollars but be miserable. And I just saw so many good families get broken up over deaths and wills weren't done right and all this money was on the table. And so the money part's great, but you've got to have the emotional, the well-being part. I want to circle back a little bit about alcoholism, because in our industry it's got to be rampant. I'm sure your book's going to have lots of statistics and studies on alcohol abuse. I was a full-blown alcoholic before Seth died, but I was a fully functional alcoholic. I mean, social, could go out. I never stumbled. I never blacked out. I could drink 2 bottles of expensive Cabernet. I still have a dog named Camus and a cat named Opus. And for someone who's quit drinking 4 years ago, and I have 2 pets named after my favorite Cabernets, I looked at the industry and thought, it's really odd how we go to these conferences and there's all this celebration, and then at night they just sit around and get hammered drunk. Wholesalers spend all this money on us, and it just turns into, at the evening when you're going through the elevator at night, you see couples fighting, you see the unhappy people, like you said, you see unhealthy people. I just thought, that's not the conferences that I think could really be inspiring and uplifting. So one thing I think our industry needs is to upgrade our conferences, make them less about partying and more about information and fellowship and the culture of it. But back to what you're talking
great
about.
Idea.
And so, why do you think financial advisors, particularly, are so unhappy when a lot of them have done very well financially? What are they missing?
I think it's like a perfect storm, because when you become a financial advisor, you have your hustle years, right? And maybe they're 5 years, maybe it's 10 years. So you think,
Right.
I'll just do whatever it takes to get successful, and then I'll circle back and start taking care of myself.
Good
By
point.
that time, there's such a disconnect
Right.
that they never pick it back up on their plate until, there's some sort of crisis that hits. Well, if you pair that together with the volatility of a market that they can't control, but the expectation that their clients have that they are going to make them money and not lose their money,
Right.
that
Right.
burden kind of sits on their shoulders. And combine that with just the office kind of job where you're sedentary for a good portion of your day behind a computer typically. And when you do get away from the computer, you're whining and dining and taking people to do things, out. And it's just the perfect storm. I mean, I don't want to say that other industries don't have these types of things, because they do, but it seems to be a lot of personality types that love, they're go-getters. They want to achieve, and they just can't quite they're running for the races in one area of life and forget that there are other areas. I kind of liken it to, my dad's office was in Arkansas, the boot heel of Arkansas, and the Mississippi River runs right through our area, and it's all cotton fields. So if the Mississippi floods, then your cotton fields get destroyed, right? Mm-hmm. So the only way to do that, you can't change the river, you can't change the environment of the financial services industry, but you can build your levees higher, right?
Absolutely.
You can keep the water where it should be to protect your other fields. And what happens in the financial advisors industry is just like, the water keeps running, it never slows down. People think it will, and it ends up just kind of getting out and flooding the rest of their life. Because they haven't been as proactive in that part as they have in their finances. And so what I think is really important is that advisors have the skill set already. They have all the skills to plan for the future, to do the deposits, to not have these gaps in coverage for your portfolio or whatever. So all we really need to do is transfer the skills from money to health and see health as an asset that it is. So put some trends behind it, put some numbers behind it, know what 10 areas you should be looking at and where you've got your gaps. So it's almost like making advisors authentic to their own message is what we're doing.
Oh boy, that's so accurate. I mean, that's a very accurate. Yeah, it is, because the old saying, practice what you preach. I mean,
Yeah.
how many lawyers die without a will? How many, it happens all the time, all the time. You hear about this lawyer that dies, didn't have a will. It's like, how many financial planners don't have a plan? Did you ask that question in your research? I mean, I bet a lot of them don't.
Well, I didn't ask about specific on their financial plan, but I do have kind of a belief statement that I allude to when I ask them questions is if you have a financial plan, but you don't have a wellness plan, you have half a plan.
Yeah.
Because the
Yep.
two go together. It's like
Right.
train tracks going towards your destination. If one of them isn't laid properly, you're going to derail yourself, whether it's your money or your wealth, or sorry, your money or your health. Either one, both of them are necessary. And so everything that, I like to think of things in terms of money. So if someone's carrying a lot of high interest credit cards, wouldn't you counsel them to get rid of those because they're
Right.
costing them their future?
Right.
It's that's the same way with your health. If you're carrying belly fat,
Right.
that's your high interest credit card. It's,
That's
if you
good.
have stress that's at a 9, something's going to give. It's a pressure cooker. So what
Right.
is it that you're going to do about it? Is it going to be a drinking issue that you're going to have like you just mentioned? Because you have to figure out a way to deal with it. Or is something in your body going to break down and force you to back off? Because it's just not a sustainable lifestyle.
Well, what's going to happen when your book comes out is other people in other industries are going to say, well, it's no different in my business. I just was on a podcast with Sean Welsh today. I just met him on LinkedIn a little while ago, and he's in the car business. And he was telling me
Oh, that's
how,
a rough one too.
yeah, he was telling me it's commission driven, it's high alcohol, it's they play hard, they party hard, and he has a mental health podcast, and that's why I was a guest. But I'm like, there's an industry that could read your book and say, well, the financial stuff doesn't interest me, but all the issues, they're the same in my industry. So I think your book is like portable. You could like boilerplate it in many different industries. I want to ask you another question I've been really wanting to ask you.
Sure.
This is a male dominated industry. So a female here is trying to get information in a male dominated industry. So the problems with the men in this industry, I can relate to because obviously that's what I am. But what are the problems the women have? What's the impetus or the genesis behind the lack of satisfaction for women? I could think of the obvious ones: raising a family, those having children, those type of things. But what are the stressors for the women financial advisors that would be different from the men that you found?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I really have to find female financial advisors. I have to look for them and try to
Yeah.
get them because so many of my interviews are with the men. And what I'm finding is that, yes, there's the family struggles and those types of things, which add another layer. But also I'm hearing a consistent theme of bully advisors. So bully advisors who've been in the industry for a long time, and they're kind of like good old boys club. This is how we've
Yeah.
always done it. And they'll actually tell these women, I don't believe in you. I don't think you can do this. You don't have a place here. I can't believe that people are actually saying these
I
things.
can't
But
either.
they are. And so one of the advisors I spoke to, she
Wow.
said, I lived in that toxic environment of someone, and I was supposed to take over his body of his book of business when he retired, and he kept telling me that there's no way I would be successful. So she said, I found myself in the bathroom having anxiety attacks, just crying. I couldn't function. So for the first time in her life, she had to go out and get a therapist, go through therapy for a year and a half to try to, not give up, essentially. And so that's a constant theme I'm seeing, is that there's a lack of belief that these women can do that from the people that have been in the industry for a long time. Probably the other thing is a loneliness. They feel like the only one because most of the people in their circles are males, and they feel like they have different struggles. And so I'm seeing a lot of women's groups pop up.
Good. Great.
Women in wealth, women in finance,
Yeah.
and all of these things because they need someone to kind of just vent to, and that's really
Yeah.
healthy.
Yeah, I in my 30 something years, I remember a meeting I was at with some of the good old boys, advisors on a. I won't say where any. I'll just keep it limited. But I was in a meeting where this female wholesaler came into the room, and one of the gentlemen, who at the time was probably in his 70s, said something
Yeah.
like, "Well, we're looking for your presentation, sweetie," and
Ooh.
you could, and I was probably 35 at the time, and you could see me and all the other younger men saying, "Dude,
Worm.
dude, yeah," we squirmed. We're like, "Oh shit!" I thought, and she was awesome. She was professional, but just sweetie. It's like, and that now, hopefully, that is out of our industry and out of the workplace. And I have to think that as some of these older men leave, that they're being replaced by hopefully men that are now have seen these things and seen the injustices and the discrimination that goes on with all this stuff.
Right.
And it is unfortunate. But the women I've met in this industry, man, they are rock stars. They are freaking rock stars. I mean, they are go-getters. They're confident. They're bright. They're not shy. Because if you are shy woman in this industry, you just ain't going to make it. You can be smarter than all the men, but if you can't communicate well, you're just not going to make it. But the women I met have just been unbelievable. I mean, they are just. I need to get a couple of them on my show, actually. Most of my show has been talking to trauma and alcoholics and things like that. People have had some issues, but you're really the second person, other than John Statmuller, that I've had on the show that has been in our industry. So,
Yeah, going back just a little bit, we talked about the obvious ones with the family, with the women. One thing I've noticed with the stress levels, because I ask everyone that I interview, what is your stress? And then tell me more about what those stressors are.
yeah.
Men are really consistently 6 or 7 on a scale of 1 to 10.
Okay.
Like that's
10
pretty
being
common.
10 being high stressed.
10 being high,
Okay.
1 being no big deal,
Right.
6 or 7, the people who've been in the industry, they're taking care of their bodies. They have a workout, eating, mental health routine that they subscribe to. They're pretty consistently like a 4 on that same scale.
Yeah.
It's the same industry, but they just have a better way of dealing with that stuff.
Yeah.
But the women are almost always a 9 on that scale. A 9. And I'm like,
Wow.
okay, why? Like, let's figure this out. And they just have more. And a lot of the time it's because they feel like they have 2 jobs. One is the family, because they
Yeah.
have to get everybody out the door. They have to fix dinner at night. And these are the responsibilities that really weigh on them heavily, is juggling all of that stuff. So,
Right.
we can say it's been there. Those are the common ones, but it's still really serious, because you can't operate for decades at a 9 for your stress levels without something going wrong.
And that is so true. And I write frequently about a lot of the stuff I went through. And one of the ways I've been able to survive, because people are always wondering, how did you survive this, Jeff? A lot of it was my preparation and my prevention, my habits. I kind of look at, I have 2 lives. I have before the 2 deaths in my life, and then I have after the 2 deaths in my life.
Right.
And before this happened, as an ex-athlete, competitive person, I have ADD. I'm hyper focused, so things rolled off my back. A client could say "F you," and it would be on my mind for 5 seconds. I mean,
Yeah.
I've always been that way, and that's an asset in this business. There's also times it can get you in trouble, because I'm not a very good listener sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm so just resilient. I guess that's where this living undeterred thing came from, is I just feel like, but what happened to me made me realize that there's certain shortcuts that I can't take anymore. Like, I have to watch my health. I mean, I have to quit drinking. I have to exercise. I have to meditate. I have to read. I have to be around positive people 24/7. I can't afford to be around negative people. I can't have the TV on. I can't watch Fox News. I can't do any of that stuff, because I'll go back to my old habits of being, angry, like you said. My stress level before all this happened was probably a 5 or 6. But I've learned now, and I think there's some lessons in what I've been through that can help financial advisors in preparation and prevention. So all the financial advisors that have been out there, they know that another market correction is coming. It's not a matter of if. it's win. And so
Right.
the time to prepare your clients for that is right now, you know. And I think a lot of young advisors, they don't think that's necessary. You know, prevention is I'll worry about it when it happens. Whereas some of the older advisors are like, oh, we're having these conversations every day, you know. So I
Yeah.
think to help you a little bit, not help you, you don't need help, but Stephen, is to maybe something I've noticed is the preparation for an advisor in those meetings, in those client reviews, to tee the client up that the inevitable corrections are coming. We just don't know when, but they will. I think that helps a lot in healing when they do come, and you're not floored, and your phone isn't ringing, and clients yelling at you all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's true too. Just like you would, like an advisor would talk to clients about their risk tolerance,
Oh yeah,
right?
yep,
Younger
yep,
younger clients have a little bit more risk they can take. Older
yeah.
clients, you have to watch your margins a little more and be a little more conservative. The same thing is true for your health and wellness. Just like you said, when I'm younger, I'm able to go out and do all of these things, but as time goes by, I have to watch it. I have to be careful because
Hmm.
things become more detrimental as the timeline continues to march along. So, what you could get away with in your 20s, in your 50s, you're not going to be able to get away with. You have to actually clean up and get a little bit of a tighter ship the further along in those. There's actually 4 life categories or stages. And the third one, which is ages 44 to 66, that's like the
Hmm.
typical midlife. That one is your only window to affect your last 8,000 days, your retirement days, because
Hmm.
what you do there gives you enough wiggle room to actually make the changes that you need, because by the time you get to the retiree days, your risk tolerance and your margins are so small that you can't there's already you've kind of already baked your cake essentially. So yes, the prevention is a constant thing
Hmm.
that I'm trying to educate around. Is like, we can't wait on this stuff, guys. You
Right,
can't you
right,
can't retire and then open your 401k. You just can't
right,
do it.
right.
You can't retire or get into your 40s and 50s without looking at your health, because sometimes you can't get that stuff back. And we need to start thinking about it now.
So how many people did you, or are you still interviewing, I assume, right, for the book?
Yeah, yeah, I'm interviewing through the end of the year. So I have the guts of the book built, but I'm looking for more data and stories.
Hmm.
And so I'm looking for as many advisors to interview. Right now, I've interviewed 60 to 70 advisors,
Awesome.
something like that. And the goal is to get as close to 300 by the end of the year as
Wow.
possible. So
Okay.
I've got some really strong data so we can really see what's going on. And understand what's really important. I just put a poll out this past week. I don't know if you saw it. And it was, what's
I
more
did.
important to you for a motivator? Is it to look good in your clothes, or
I
is it
did see it.
disease prevention? Yeah. What
I'm
was
not
your
going to tell you
vote?
what I
Which one?
answered. No, oh, so
And
okay. Now wait a minute. Oh
no pressure. You
man.
don't have to answer. That's okay. But I can tell you
What?
the results if you want.
No, I know what I answered. I said disease prevention because that's the at 55 years old. That's a lot more important
Yeah.
than what I look like. Now, if you ask me the same thing at 35, it's what I look like, no
How you
question.
look. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people, when they say disease prevention, they have like a heroic look and they want to do the right thing and they're
Yep.
doing it for all these reasons.
Yep.
When they say they want to look good in their clothes, they come at it apologetically. They say, "I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't say this, but this is what I really think."
Huh.
And it's really interesting, just the
Yeah, it
approach of
is.
how they admit what their real motivation is. And, so there are biases out there in the world, right? Whether it's your
Yeah.
mental health or the
Yep.
things that, addictions or whatever, there are biases that we're constantly, pressing up against and shying away from. And these conversations are hard. They're not simple. And I would love if every advisor would just be willing to open these conversations. Not that they have to be the expert, but, how are you doing? What do you want to be doing in 20 years? Not just how long are you going to live? We're
Right.
we're talking about the difference in lifespan versus health span. Insurance companies deal with lifespan, right? When are you going to take your last breath? We want to know, as people who are trying to help others, how long are you going to live well? How long are you going to be free? And it's all about freedom, freedom from addictions, freedom from mental distress, freedom from your ability to wash your hair because your shoulders still work, or whatever. That's really, everyone wants, the ability to do what they want, when they want, with the people they want, for as long as they want. And that's what money gives you, is that vehicle, but that's also what your health and wellness gives you. And you can't separate those two things.
Was there anything in your research that you just said, wow, I never saw that coming? Any just jaw-dropping things you said, wow, I didn't envision this being an issue?
Yeah, I made a list and I posted it this week of the top 10 things I've seen so far. Probably, I kind of expected most of them. What I didn't expect.
I saw the list, by the way. I saw the list. Yeah, I'm just acting like I didn't know the answer.
Okay. I'd like to know what stuck out to you, if you remember. But the thing that surprised me the most, I actually called my book coach and I was like, you won't believe this. Advisors have this thing about Peloton bikes. Like, what is this? I didn't know.
I saw that.
Peloton bikes were an advisor thing. What I mean,
that was the highest. That was one of the higher things up there, right?
Yeah, that one, and Orange Theory, membership to Orange Theory. And I've started asking people now, do you belong to Orange Theory? And if so, why? And I'm finding out it's like a report card at the end. You get like how many minutes you were in each zone, and they totally love that. So I'm like, okay, these are things I did not expect.
Well, I just think, I'm a really good friend with John Statmuller, and John's been a guest on the show. I love what John's doing with his Good Advisors Finish First idea.
Yeah.
Obviously, well, I won't go too much into the politics behind what's going on behind closed doors, but John has sensed this unsatisfaction with advisors from a standpoint of a perception that there's a perception out there, and that the good advisor, maybe an advisor that's not doing the things that are received by the public always in the right way, but the good advisor will always finish first. And he said today on a conference call, finish first isn't a race. You never really finish. There's nothing to finish. And I think that's probably a way people look at retirement. So I was going to segue this into the word retirement. Do you like the word retirement?
I don't. Not at all.
I don't either.
I don't think we should ever retire. We might just change the way that we spend our time. What is retire? I mean, are you retired right now because you're not doing a financial advisor job? No, you're still working.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Right.
Yeah. I love the work that Greg Sloan does with purpose, because sometimes your purpose is to serve in this way, and sometimes your purpose is to serve in other ways, but you're never retired from life. My husband and I joke, we're like, we're never retiring. We're always going to have something to work on.
Right.
And so I struggle with that, because I know that's the language that everyone uses and everyone's preparing for this retirement phase. But honestly, like, it starts now, right?
Right.
It's your life now. It should be your life then, exactly how you want it to be. So let's be part of. I told a client even today, it's time for you to step up and become the conductor here. Like, you're kind of going with like some random music, and you don't know what you're doing from day to day. You don't have a plan. You're letting things push you around. Let's like make a beautiful song with your life and become the conductor. Put a little, preparation into that.
Right.
So you can make a beautiful melody that carries on until you take your last breath. And let's live long and die short, and get rid of this concept of retirement. There are 2 points in life when health takes a nosedive. One of them is at 40. The other one is at retirement. Why? Yeah. Why at retirement? I know 40 because there's a lot of physiological things that are changing there. Yeah. 65 though, ish. Or even before, if you retire early. And there's a lot of psychology around that. And, I'll just share one example of a study that was done. If you take people who live in a nursing home and let's say they're 88 years old. If you go in and you change the decor
Yeah.
to 20 years ago, have you heard this one?
Yeah. Well, no, I know you're going with it. Yeah.
Yeah, you change the pictures on the wall, you play
Yep.
different music. Suddenly their mobility increases. Their ability to walk increases.
Yep.
Their strength, their how tall they are. Like you're just like, really? All we did was change your environment.
Hmm.
So, how can we make a better environment? That's why I'm really loving your idea about the conferences. How can
Hmm.
you make those a vehicle for improving productivity and health and life satisfaction and quality of life and all these things as opposed to just like a party that's taking early deposits? It's like a check into cash location. You're taking
I
early
know.
deposits from your
I know.
future,
I
right?
just, I almost not want to go to those conferences solely because once the meetings are over, then what I'm looking to get out of the conference ends. I used to be, I used to enjoy the dinners and all that, but I don't like being around people that are overserved. It's something that just, I've lost people in my life to this thing. And it's like, but how am I going to go to a conference, go out for dinner and hang out with people afterwards without that happening? So it's not like I'm afraid I'm going to break down and drink myself. That I'm not worried about. But why can't we have conferences where there's the theme isn't around the drinking stuff? I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe that's just what I see now because I don't drink. But
It needs
so
an up leveling for sure.
what's that?
The industry needs an up leveling. It's time to level up.
It is, and
I think you're a part of that.
yeah, I mean, I would love to be able to go to a conference and have a non-alcoholic, not an AA meeting. I'm not an AA. I've never been to meetings. I don't need meetings. I'm doing good myself. But I drink non-alcoholic beer, so it's like, why couldn't we just have breakout sessions on how to live a non-alcohol lifestyle? I mean, I can show people kind of the ways I've done things, and AA works, and it's just it hasn't been updated in 100 years. It's antiquated. It's the 12
Yeah.
steps is I'm agnostic, so I'm not religious. So the whole higher being thing for me just always kind of turned me off with AA because I just didn't pull me to not drink,
Right.
And for some people it does, and at the end of the day, whatever gets you not to drink is all that matters, whatever can get you to make that decision not to feed your addiction, then that's all that really matters. But so what's the next to wrap up your book? You've got some things you've already been working. What are some other areas you want to kind of do more research on before you start finalizing the book? What are some areas of interest that you have in this industry?
I'm really interested in triggers. What is
Hmm.
the trigger that the switch that flips that causes people to take action?
Actions
Because
such as
well, I've talked to quite a few advisors who are actually doing very well and they've lost 70 pounds, 40 pounds. They've
oh,
turned their
okay,
lives around.
right,
What what was that trigger? Because it's different for everybody and maybe there's some common themes that could help trigger others to do, get on before they have bad test results that come back from their doctor. One of the stories I just heard recently was an advisor went to his doctor and he was living his life, really successful, thought he looked okay, and it's called A1C, that's your blood sugar over
hmm,
long term,
yeah,
was
yep,
7.1, which is full-blown diabetes. That was his
oh
wake-up
wow,
call. And he's like, "Oh no, what am I going to do? I didn't, now you have to make the changes." So he's like, "What do I do, doc?" And he goes, "Well, you can only have 45 grams of carbs every day now." And he's like, "Okay, I don't even know what that means." So he got in
what
his
is that?
car and he picked up his Mountain Dew and looked at the back and it was 47 grams of carbs. And he's
Yeah,
like, "I drink 3 of these a day and that's not even my food. Like we've
right.
got some serious overhauling to do." So those triggers, what are they? I mean, some of them are common. You get some bad news, but some of them are like I put this in my top 10 list too, was like accidentally glimpsing an image of yourself in a mirror as you walk through a conference, for example, and you're like, "Man, who's that guy?" And you're like, "Oh my gosh, that's me." I
Wow,
don't
yeah,
see myself like that in my mind's
hmm,
eye,
hmm,
and that's sometimes a trigger. You know, um, some people it's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't play basketball anymore. My jump is gone. I need to do something about this." So I'm really have a lot of interest in triggers, and I don't have a good feel for a common theme there beyond the
hmm.
obvious. So I would like to know more about that. Um, I also really want to understand a bit more of advisors who do bring the health conversation into their client conversations. What is the action that takes place with their clients? How
That's a tricky
impactful is
one.
that?
That's a
Yeah,
tricky one
that's going to
because,
be really difficult
yeah,
to understand, but I have a lot of interest there, just like because in the 20 years plus that I've been in this industry, there are 18% of the population who actually care and do anything about their health out of 100%.
man,
18%. That's when I started in 1998. And the statistics in my whole career have not changed. It's still
down. Oh, it's
18%.
18. Okay.
Yep. We have not moved the needle at
That's terrible,
all.
though.
And
That's terrible.
it's awful. We're failing. My industry is failing to meet the needs of the public when it comes to their health. So that's when I had my aha. That was my trigger. I was like, okay, I've been doing exercise physiology for 20 plus years and it's not working. We're going to switch here and we're going to look at something else and we're going to figure out what it is that's going to make the biggest difference. And honestly, it's the first hour you're awake, it's the last hour you're asleep before you
Right.
go to sleep. It's your meal routine more so than what you eat. It's your routine of your meal. And then it's what you do during your working hours. That's actually the difference between health and non-health. I don't care if someone exercises an hour every day. If they
Right.
don't have some of these things in place, they're not protected from some of these things. In fact, if someone's at a 9 on stress and they're running, I'm going to tell them to quit running because you're just doing more damage than
That's
anything else.
interesting. See,
Yeah.
I wrote down a couple things I want to ask you here in a second, but in my
Yeah.
situation, I have my knees are kind of. I've had two knee surgeries on each knee. I tore my Achilles tendon off, and so I can't
Ooh.
run outside playing
Yeah.
racquetball when I was 35. So I run on my elliptical, but I'm noticing now I can't run at the same intensity because my knees start to really get sore, and I can't run every day. So I'm like, damn, it's like, so that Peloton thing that you mentioned, I may
Peloton.
be
Yeah.
buying one. I may be, because I think that's going to be less stress on my knees. And so I think for me as I get older, I want to exercise. My heart's there, but it's hard to because I'm just prone to getting little tweaking injuries all the time, you know?
Yeah. Well, so two thoughts there really quickly. If imagine yourself, and I encourage everyone to do this, imagine yourself and spend a few minutes thinking of yourself as an 88-year-old. Who
Okay.
are you when you're 88? What can
My
you
dad's
do?
88, so that's easy. I'll be my dad.
Yeah, be your dad. And what things are you going to be running at 88?
No,
Chances are no. Are you going to be lifting heavy weights like
no,
deadlifting? Probably
no.
not. What are you going to be wanting to be able to do? Walking, bending, stooping,
Yep.
having range of
Stretching.
motion, having a clear mind.
Yep.
So start
Yep.
there. Start with the
Hmm.
things that you want to put in place that you're going to want to do at 80, and then build your way backwards and put some of the other stuff in too. But have the foundation of an old person there first, because a lot of people skip that part and then they don't have
Yep.
anything to fall back on. And I just lost my second thought I wanted to say. It's
No, I
gone.
like I like that a lot. I think the quick fix society we're in today, even clients want the quick return. They don't want to wait 5, 10 years to get a fair rate of return over time. Everything's quick. I think we're the same way. We want quick weight loss. We want quick, and it's not about the quickness. It's the longevity. I mean, losing
Yeah.
weight's easy. Making money isn't
Keeping it
that
off.
difficult. Yeah, keeping you out of the way of trading your accounts every day. That's what's going to keep you from making money. Making money's easy. Just set it and forget it.
Yeah.
And losing weight's easy. Losing weight is very easy. Now there are people that are predisposed, and but they still can lose weight. Just because you have obesity in your family doesn't mean you have to be 400 pounds. You could be 325. I mean, and I'm not being disparaging to people that are struggling with weight loss. I quit drinking. I lost 35 pounds in 3 months, and
Wow.
that was 3 or 4 years ago. I've kept it off. I don't eat meat. I work out, but I wasn't that way years ago. So I evolved. I made the changes. I want to live to be 88 years old. 98 years old. I wasn't going to get there at the route I was going. Let me ask you a
Yeah.
question about social media and mental health, because
Okay.
I tell you what, you're on LinkedIn a lot, so am I, and
Yeah.
it's very easy to get imposter syndrome. It's very easy to see another financial advisor post something about what they're doing, and now you're sitting here. Maybe you're not doing very well. Maybe you didn't get a very big check this week because your fee revenue is down or whatever. Some client yelled at you, and now you see some competing advisor you've never met with some really cool thing, and you're like, damn, maybe I should be doing that. And I think social media, I know when it comes to outside of the industry, there are beautiful, great things about social media, but man, it can really, if you're not mentally prepared to dive into that realm, it can be a disaster. It can be a disaster for your mental health.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it's the Instagram model thing, right? Everyone's like, oh, if I could just get to that, that's
Right.
perfection.
Right.
Oh, this person has it all together. There's someone on
Right.
LinkedIn who's done very, very well with her business. Excuse me. She had to make a pivotal change when COVID happened, and she's very successful, and everyone's praising her and saying, "You did a fantastic job. How did you do this?" And she was very blunt and said, "Look, this is the appearance, but I want you to know what I had to give away to do that." She now
Sure.
has Graves' disease, which is a problem with your
Mm.
thyroid and stress and all of this stuff. So she's like, and I honor her for that, to say,
Hmm.
"Look, I did this, but here's the cost that came because of it." And so, knowing that those people are out there. There's this one woman on Instagram, and she takes these gorgeous pictures of her body, and you're like, wow, she's amazing. And then she takes a second picture that's like the real her without the angles and the shadows and stuff, and it's like, oh, you're just like everyone else. And I love that. I think it's
I do too.
amazing.
I do too.
Yeah. And real quick, I'm doing these interviews, but I'm also interviewing experts too. And one of the people that I follow is Dr. Greger of nutritionfacts.org. And he's someone that if you're not eating meat, definitely follow this guy. He's very, very research based. But I still think I eat meat and I still follow him. Anyway, he says that genetics are like loading the gun, like it loads the gun, but lifestyle is what pulls the trigger. And I
Yeah.
love that analogy, because no matter what you're dealt in your past, if you've got a history of mental illness or, health issues or whatever it might be, you can still play the game. Like you're not out of the game. It's not
I
game
fully
over for
agree.
you. You still can
Fully
make that
agree.
change. And this other doctor I spoke to, Dr. Dooley, she is out in Colorado. She said, tell me the one thing that would change someone's health immediately, forever, if they started incorporating it. Like, what would be the very first place you start that would be the most impactful? And she said, sit for 5 minutes with your mouth closed and breathe out of your nose. And I was like, that simple. She goes, yes, because what it does to your hormone levels, your brain space, the way that you can kind of reset everything. She said you can move up from there, and then you can start taping your mouth at night and doing these types of things. But breathing through your nose, sitting peacefully with your own self, I mean, this is stuff that anybody can do and see instant improvements.
Let me tell you something that's going to validate what you just said.
Okay.
And I don't know if you saw my video I did a couple weeks ago about a really tough weekend I had. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time because you're the guest, I'm the host. I don't want to be me talking the whole end of the show here. But so when Seth died, I began meditation. I'd never meditated much before. I was a Stoic philosopher, very much into all this stuff inside of me. But I never meditated. With ADD, I just figured I could never meditate. I couldn't sit still. So I started meditating, 5 minutes at a time. Then it was 10. I did it for a year, did it for 2 years. Really, really enjoyed it. And got to the point where I started writing about it. My book has a whole chapter on meditation, a whole chapter. By the way, I also have a chapter on addiction, disease versus choice. So I talk a lot about that. I have some research as well. I talked to Dr. Daniel Crosby in my book, and you should reach out to him to interview him for sure. I'll
Okay.
give you his information when we're done. But
Cool. Thanks.
I'm forgetting what I talked about. Oh, so meditation. So I meditated. Well, my wife passed away, and I had 7 boxes in my room, in my living room, for like 7 weeks, 6 weeks. I was walking by them, and I finally realized that they weren't going to go away. I had to actually move them. Well, my boys were out of town. I sat down one night and I started going through. Well, the first box I opened up was Seth. And it was just pictures and letters the boys wrote when he was in prison. Letters that I wrote to him, begging him to quit drinking and all this stuff. Letters he wrote to me saying how great he loved me and how much he let me down. And I'm just crying and crying and crying. And now it's 8 o'clock at night. And, this is an hour. And I'm now getting into this hell, into this personal abyss where things are starting to get into my mind. Thoughts that weren't even there when he died in the first place. This is 5 years later. Yeah. And then I open up the next box, and it's my wife. It's our wedding pictures. It's our baby pictures. It's trips to Europe. I am in a really bad place. I mean, and it got really, really dark, and this is like 2 hours, and I shut my phone and my computer off for 3 days. And everybody was reaching out to me, and I didn't want to leave my house. I was so alone, but I didn't want to be alone, but I was alone. Where I'm going with this, Stephen, is in my self-reflection and understanding why I had this weakness at that moment. And I call it a weakness for Jeff Johnston. I don't call it for weakness for other people. This was a weakness that I had on that particular moment. I skipped 2 things that I did every single day. I hadn't meditated for a week, and I hadn't worked out for a week. And my point of this whole story is I got overconfident in my personal therapy. I got overconfident that I had this thing whipped, that I had it conquered. And I opened up what I call the first box of doom. I skipped meditation. I skipped working out. And I went right back into the abyss, the next box. And I knew it could take me 7.5 seconds to get to my safe and get my gun. And it just freaking scared the hell out of me. I'm like, This is Mr. Undeterred. I write about this stuff. I'm supposedly Superman, And now I'm like, why did this happen? Well, my point is, don't take shortcuts.
Yeah.
If meditation is your thing, and what you kind of described there is meditation, breathing through the nose, and that is what I do. And now I added 10 minutes. I do 20 minutes now, and I added 15 minutes to my run and my ellipticals. I'm so scared to go back into the abyss again. And my point to everybody watching this, Stephen, is I've been through some traumatic things. I've healed very well. I've done lots of things with my projects, but I'm still in fleeting moments susceptible, like everybody else, to go right back into those places. And it scared the hell out of me. And I think you could take that when you're putting together your book, and that's a very good story about every financial advisor that thinks they've conquered all these things. You've only conquered it up to this point.
Yeah.
You haven't conquered tomorrow at all. You know?
Yeah. I mean, that's a brilliant story of resilience, because we're all going to go down into that deep abyss, and we need the tools to be able to fortify, the mighty Mississippi.
Yeah.
Those levees, so that we protect those things. And if we get a hole in it, we have to go back and repair it. And one of my clients said this to me last week. He's like, "You mean you struggle with eating things you shouldn't eat?" And I'm like, "Yes, all the time. I just have tools in place that can kind of help protect me. And then sometimes I get into and I eat, 3 pieces of turtle cake or whatever that weakness is for me." And we are all there. Nobody is beyond reproach. And we all just need, I call it our little toolbox. What are those things that you can reach in and help you, that are going to support you, either long term, like you said, or in that crisis moment when you need some help? I call them save me snacks. You should always have a save me snack nearby, just in case you get yourself into a place where the only option, you're starving and shaking and you have to go through McDonald's. There should be a save me snack in your purse, your car, whatever, that you can grab to get you to your next safe place for a great meal. The same thing is true for mental health. Breathing is that thing for a lot of people, because everyone breathes. And if you probably know this already, Jeff.
What's this say right there?
Breathe out of your nose. Yes.
I have this on my computer every podcast I do to remind me when I'm on a guest or I'm giving a podcast, to remind me to breathe through my nose.
It's so small, but it's huge. Yes. And you put your tongue, when you're resting, at the roof of your mouth. Yep. There's an actual trigger point there for serotonin release in your brain.
Interesting.
And you're like, oh my gosh, just rest your tongue at the roof of your mouth. breathe out of your nose and get that nitrate oxide. And that's going to help you change your CO2 levels, which has this cascading effect of relaxation and calms you down. Everyone can do that. Then you can start over again.
What's got to be exciting for you is as you are going through this research project, there's so many interesting things that you're finding that are helping you, And I found that out when I wrote my book, is I'm doing these things going, wow, I'm writing about my son's addiction to, Adderall early on. And then I get into other things with alcoholism. I'm doing research on alcohol, and I'm going, wow, there's a lot of things in there that I'm benefiting directly that I think more people need to hear. So I think it's exciting. I think it's exciting what you're doing. You have to be extremely excited to get this project done. When do you anticipate your book being done?
So, like I said, I'm going to do interviews through the end of the year, and then first quarter of next year is when I start putting it all together in book format. So I hope by the end of Q1 that we'll have
self-publishing, and are you doing an audiobook?
Yes, on the audiobook. Yes, on the digital soft cover, hardback, and podcast. So I've got like this whole sequence of what I'm doing. Publishing, I do have a book coach, and we are trying to figure out which direction to go. We don't know yet. I've had a publisher who said he loves the idea and wants to publish the book. I'm just not sure if it's the right way to go. So if you have advice on that.
I self-published. I hired a publicist, which did open some good doors for me. It was fairly expensive, but I don't regret it. I self-published, but one thing I told myself, and you may be different in this regards, but I told myself I would never look how many books I sold. And to this day, 9/25, it'll be the 1 year the book's been out. And I've never looked or asked. I don't even know how to see how many books I've sold. My intent was never to be a bestseller. Never to make money. It was to honor my son. That was the reason I wrote this book. And now honor my wife. And if money is going to come down the road, then so be it. But that's not the purpose of this. And so, the advice I would give you is I like the self-publishing because you really retain a lot of control. And with LinkedIn and social media and all the connections you have, like myself, I can definitely promote your book through my channels. You may want to go the self-published route and maybe hire the publicist or the book coach, whatever you want to call it. And then, I figured, if I look at my book sales 6 months into the deal, whatever number comes up, I'm not going to be happy. There's no number like when I used to gamble, Stephen. I'd walk into the casino and there was no amount of money I was going to win to be happy. I wanted all the money. I didn't want to double my money. And so I know right now in advance, if I hit how many books have I sold, whatever number comes up is not enough. So why look?
So why look, right?
Why look? So I have no desire to ever know how many books. And so I just think as an author coming into that arena, that's one thing I would probably advise you on. Just don't worry about anything. Worry on the content, worry on distribution, get on podcasts, tell your story like this. You have just, I think, I'm actually envious of you because I really wanted to write a book like you're doing. The health and well-being of our industry. Something I really, really wanted to do, but you beat me to it. But I'll read your.
Yeah.
I know. I got enough things on my plate, but I'm really excited. I'm really, really excited to read your book. But I really want you to reach out to Dr. Daniel Crosby. He's a groundbreaking behavioral finance expert, and he's got 4 or 5 books. The Laws of Wealth is one of the best books written on personal psychology behind finance of any book I've ever read in my life.
Oh wow!
And I interviewed Daniel for my book, and he's got like 2 pages of things we talked about. We talked about the addiction issues with money, and how that can be the same as addiction issues with drugs and alcohol. You can be an addict to money. You can be an addict to money and end up having it all being miserable. So, anyway, any last things you want to mention about your book? Maybe things you have, any other projects you have working on, and then what are the best ways people can reach you?
Okay, great. Yeah. I guess just to follow up on your comments about the book, I did not go into this hoping to make any dollars off of this book. It's a project to get the word out there. I
Mm-hmm.
think that if I can get the word out to as many people, there will be plenty of people who can't do it on their own and want to come
Right.
back and hire us, and we can
Yep.
help them with that process. So
Yep.
it's really not a money making endeavor. In fact, I hope to give as many books away as possible. So um,
Awesome.
labor of love, we'll call it. So I guess as far as how to get in touch with me, next projects, I'm hoping to go. Right now, I'm working with individuals mostly. I really hope to start breaking into more firm work with
Hmm.
company culture, like you talked about, trying to flip that around, help people with the firms with burnout and turnover and all of these things by getting some of these low hanging fruit taken care of as far as their health goes. So that would be a really exciting project. Not quite there yet. As far as how to reach me, I am really active on LinkedIn. I'm there
I
all
know
the
you are.
time. Connect with me there. Send me a message. Go to growwellthy.com, WELL, Wealthy, growwellthy.com. And there's something for advisors specifically, but I think it would be beneficial to anyone. And that's just this cheat sheet that opens the conversation and the connection between health and wealth and gives 4 tools to be able to use with your own clients. So that might be helpful. But yeah, those are the ways to reach me.
Well, I think what you're doing is awesome. I think it's much needed. It's very timely. COVID, as disastrous as it was for many people, actually is a great validation for what you're doing.
Well, it's a great time for people to reassess their lives. I'm
Right.
seeing a lot of people do that and wonder, what's important? What have I been stuck in? Because I talk about automation all the time. Their lives are already automated, but they're realizing that they're automated to the wrong things.
Right.
And so
Right.
let's try to rearrange that furniture and get a better outcome next time. So,
Well, listen,
yeah, I
Stephen,
love what you're doing. It's been fantastic.
I just started this in January, and it just started with blogs I wanted to write because I like to writing to me is very therapeutic, and then it got into I thought, well, I can do a podcast, and then then it's kind of got going, and I'm meeting more people like you in different industries, and then this whole Living Undeterred tour next summer, where we're going to every state in the United States, and I'm committed to raise $1 million, and I'm going to give half it back to the states that sponsor me.
Wow.
I'm matching the first $25,000 for the first 25 that goes in. I'm matching myself 25,000, and I want to change the narrative on mental health, substance abuse, and addiction. And this is what I'm going to do the rest of my life. I've been touched by what this can do. My granddaughter is here this weekend. My son's
Oh,
child.
yay.
When Seth died, his girlfriend was pregnant, and so I've been blessed with a beautiful granddaughter named Brighton, and I have her this weekend. We're going to a football game tonight. So as bad as things can possibly get, there's always a way to look at the other side. You
Find the
know?
joy. We can find the joy in almost any situation, can't we?
Yeah, we can. Well, keep doing what you're doing, Stephen. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure our paths will
Thank you.
cross many times. So thanks for being on the Living
Wonderful.
Undeterred show.
Thank you.